All right, just to let folks know, this meeting will be recorded in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. By remaining on the call, if you agree and consent to being recorded for this purpose. And with that, I'll take it over to Martin to convene the meeting and get us rolling.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Busy day, busy week. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. So we will move through today's agenda. Harrison took my recording disclaimer. I appreciate that, Harrison. Thank you. Before we'll jump into business, we will ask everyone if they've reviewed the minutes from the committee meeting in May. And if there aren't any changes or updates, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
As far as voting members, we are okay.
Yep. Can we get a second?
Second.
Perfect. Any opposition? All in favor, say aye or raise a hand.
Aye.
Lovely. All right. Minutes are approved. Martin, do you want to do a quick round of introductions?
Sure, absolutely. Should we call roll or just do intro?
Let's just do intro. We'll start in the room and then we'll go one by one very quickly online.
Sure. Well, then I'll start by saying I'm Martin Prue, value-added agricultural specialist with the Maryland Department of Agriculture and the chair of the Governor's Intergovernmental Commission on Agriculture's Value-Added Agriculture and Agritourism Subcommittee.
Everyone else's introduction is going to have to be shorter than that.
Yes, fast.
I'm Josh Parker with the Carolina County Health Department. I'm the Director of Environmental Health, and I've been nominated as the MACO representative.
Harrison Palmer, Executive Secretary of Boards and Commissions at the Department of Agriculture. And I'm just going to go in order as I see it on the screen. Cliff Mitchell.
Hi, Clifford Mitchell, Maryland Department of Health, Environmental Health Bureau.
Thanks, sir. David Cornwell.
Hi, Debbie Hurt-Cornwell, Maryland Department of Planning.
Thank you. Gabriel Tiskian.
Hi, folks. I'm Gabriel Tiskian. I'm a second-year preventive medicine resident at Johns Hopkins working for Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you. Jenny Dempsey.
Hi, Jenny Dempsey. I'm the Director of the Office of Planning and Zoning for Anne Arundel County, representing the planning officers.
Thank you. Jessica Richards.
Hi, I am a member at large for this committee, but I also work for Tri-County Council for Southern Maryland.
Thank you. Joanne Jason.
Joanne Chasen, First Vice President, Maryland Farm Bureau.
Thank you. We've got John. John, can you hear us?
Jonathan Cribbs. I'm a reporter at the American Farm Publications.
Thank you. Kelly Dudek.
Hi, all. Kelly Dudek, Cultivate and Craft, representing value-added agriculture, craft alcohol manufacturing, and agritourism.
Thank you, Kelly. Les Knapp.
Hi, everyone. Les Knapp, Assistant Director for the Water and Science Administration at MDE and guest presenter for today.
Thank you. Lily Wagner. Megan Todd.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Megan Todd. I work with the Agriculture Law Education Initiative out of the University of Maryland, Baltimore, public member at large.
Thank you. Mary Ellen Gray.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Ellen Gray. I'm from the Queen Anne's County Planning and Zoning Office. I'm sitting in for Stephanie Jones, who wasn't able to make it today. Thank you.
Thanks for jumping on today. Nancy.
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Nunn. I'm the Assistant Director of the Hughes Center, and I'm a member at large.
Thank you, Nancy. Patricia Balls.
Hi, Patricia Balls. I'm the Chief of the Office of Food Protection with the Maryland Department of Health.
Thank you. Ryan Powell.
Hi, I'm Energy Program Manager over here at Commerce. I'm sitting in for Joe today.
Thanks for joining. Samuel Paul.
Hi, I'm Samuel Paul, Senior Health Policy Analyst with the Maryland Department of Health, Office of Governmental Affairs.
Thank you. Stacy Glasgow.
Hi, everyone. Stacy Kabovsik, Assistant Director with Marbitco, public member.
Steve Connolly. And Steve McHenry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Steve McHenry, Executive Director, Marbitco.
Thank y'all. Martin, back to you. We'll hold the presentation.
If you don't mind. So again, thank you. What a turnout. We appreciate everyone tuning in. I think today is going to be a bit more of status updates, just to show, the progress of all the fantastic conversations and initiatives that are taking place inside and external to this subcommittee meeting. One of the standing agenda items that has been around for the past handful of subcommittee meetings has been MDA's update to you, the subcommittee, on our statewide guidance and analysis document initiative specific to value-added agriculture and agritourism. We were, during the May subcommittee meeting, we were a week away from presenting another significant project update. And thanks to the Department of Health, we were able to connect with MACHO, and we had a handful of environmental health directors and health officers from throughout the state participate and engage. We're really hoping to not miss any audiences on this. So if any other organizations or entities come into mind, what you hear from us in a quick update is absolutely available to them if it's worth engaging. So please don't hesitate to reach out or connect us. Again, just a quick rundown of what this is for those that are just tuning in. This is an initiative that kicked off really just a handful of months ago. Maryland Department of Agriculture was fortunate to have a University of Maryland policy fellow join us in the end of January. This guidance document could not have started without him. Aiden Boleen has left us to enjoy the summer, but was a great help. The purpose of the statewide guidance document is to establish a baseline understanding of the confusing and complicated regulatory framework revolving around value-added agriculture and agritourism throughout the state. We recognize that regulation is layered. There is a state role, there is a local role. Sometimes it's both at the same time. This document is not necessarily business-facing. It is regulator and decision-maker facing. Since February, Maryland Department of Agriculture has been reaching out and connecting with counties, hopefully eventually all 24 local jurisdictions in Maryland, to include Baltimore City, to host regulatory roundtables facilitated by either the Agricultural or Economic Development Office in that jurisdiction, to convene environmental health professionals, permitting and planning professionals, industry representatives, sometimes even elected officials, depending on the county and the discussion. And we've been having about 2-hour roundtable discussions to flip the script and ask those at the table, what are the trending industries in your jurisdiction? What uses and concepts are causing the most headache? And more importantly, what can the state do as far as initiative, materials, programming, assistance to help the regulatory and decision-making process as it revolves around value-added agriculture and agritourism? So this was the project update that was given in July. I kept it pretty much June. I kept it pretty much the same. I'm not going to run through every slide in great detail, but there are a few I would like to acknowledge for you all. And then I think that this ties really well into the next agenda item of the committee discussions, and it'll really tie everything together to really show the emphasis on collaboration and kind of making sure that all of these efforts fall into place. So without further ado, again, we ran through some developments to catch some of our MACHO guests up to speed. But what I really want to jump to, if you don't mind, Harrison, go a couple in there. We'll make this slide deck available as well for reference. But at the time, we had already accomplished 14 of 24 county visits. That means we had conducted roundtable discussions in 14 jurisdictions in just 2.5 months' time. I think by next week, we will have 18 of 24 visits completed, with a few more planned. We absolutely would really like to hit all 24. September is coming rather quickly, but optimistic that we can connect and have these conversations and discussions. Although this document is going to be very broad and philosophical in nature, the individual perspectives from county to county have been invaluable. And we've also been offering the opportunity for follow-up. Some of our visits were back in February and March, and if things have changed or there's current events that need to be talked through, we welcome the opportunity to learn a bit more. So what I wanted to highlight is since I presented an update to the subcommittee, the outline has been a bit more fine-tuned. And so we have added a few sections to this document as it's getting drafted. But most importantly, we have honed in on what we believe are the core challenges and opportunities identified through this outreach and engagement with the industry over the past year. So really quickly, we'll jump through the regulatory framework, but this is what the document is how it's going to be laid out. Obviously, it's a guidance and analysis document. Guidance can be tricky when something is so convoluted, and all we're asking as regulators and service providers is a bit more clarity. But we feel as though laying out the regulatory web as it relates to value-added agriculture and agritourism is going to be a really helpful first step for all of us across the state of Maryland to be on the same page of where the pressure points are, where the real challenges exist, and how we can address them. So next slide, please. So again, the regulatory framework, just so you know, this is kind of how we're laying out the guidance side of the document. You've heard me talk time and time again of how we've broken up value-added agriculture into a few recognizable themes based on how those aspects are regulated, into value-added processing, the agritourism and food service side, and the retail of value-added products, acknowledging that not everything is necessarily food-centric, so there's absolutely some other categories. Important definitions and how those definitions flow from law to regulation, from state to local, the importance of land use and all those considerations, whether it be zoning, land preservation easements, or conservation efforts, the different licensing as it relates to these different themes, and then just how the enforcement is layered and interacts with itself. Next slide, please. So we had identified a total of 6 challenges and 4 opportunities.
Martin?
Yes, sir.
It's Cliff. I think your slides are not actually advancing for anybody except you.
Oh, we'll check on that. Thank you, Cliff.
Yep, that's better.
All right, so we'll have to stay out of presentation mode.
No worries. We can go up to slide 5 really quick. Thank you, Cliff. Thank you for that. Don't like getting too far along and having to play catch up. So this is perfect. So again, what we're proposing here is just to really kind of publicize what this project is starting to frame out to be. This is kind of the overview of the sections and how the detail is going to be built out on what we're learning and kind of what the core recognized factors have been. We'll go one more slide, please. So as I just referenced, these are kind of the sections within the regulatory framework side of the project, which we would probably consider to be the guidance side. I'm doing that in air quotes in that it can be hard to guide through such a tangled web, but it's really important to kind of break things out very matter-of-factly, not just statewide, but county by county and the particular industries to really kind of just understand what that framework looks like. And from that framework and through these discussions, and I don't think any of these are going to be new to this group if you've been engaging in the conversation, but we identified some key challenges and opportunities. We'll go next slide, please. A total of 6 challenges kind of condensed down, and then 4 opportunities, which are again very thematic, tying into a lot of the updates that will be heard today from our partner agencies, but also just the conversations that MDA has been conducting from the beginning. So in the project framing, the challenges, right? Recognizing that there's no unifying definition for agriculture for regulating or implementation. There's a land use definition in the land use article at the state level for agritourism. Agritourism is defined as something that can happen on the farm, but there's not necessarily a core definition of farm for reference. So depending on the type of regulation, the licensing, the locale, it can be difficult. There's no North Star definition of what a farm is and what a farm needs to be for agritourism to be welcomed and successful. The second theme is fragmented measurables for tracking industry growth. Obviously, there are a lot of licenses for value-added processing, craft beverage, dairy products, all in separate centers or offices, but there's no licensure or certification for what an agritourism enterprise is. Agritourism is typically regulated locally, even if it is engaging in food service and something that requires licensure. It's just very hard at the state level to have a total pulse of where all of the operations are and if we are truly supporting and growing that industry successfully. I think that a convening conversation often with this subcommittee is leading to number 3, right? Just outdated regulatory language and licensing structures. The word commercial versus agricultural, how it's enacted in practice and not necessarily recognized in concept, and a lack of formulas that agritourism seems to absolutely be testing every step of the way. Next slide, please. So the last 3 kind of go hand in hand, but we separated them out for reasons. The conflict and overlap between regulations and commercial. So that should have said between agricultural regulations and commercial. But commercial standards from a zoning perspective could be completely separate from the communities that allow agricultural and farming enterprises. But when we talk about commercial codes, when it comes to building permits, sometimes that doesn't always coincide with exemptions or language that exists as it relates to agricultural buildings. There's lacking clarity and consistency in these layered processes and regulation. This challenge might be more based on materials and support than it is necessarily the regulatory framework, but it's something to recognize is that when these regulatory layers all play a role, it can be really clunky for the business or the industry to fully understand that roadmap to success. And lastly, scalability. Again, I had said some of these challenges are going to tie into some of the fun updates and exciting initiatives that are being undertaken by this subcommittee and the partners within it. But you know, there's no seasonal recognition for what agritourism can be, sort of removing that stepstone for business phasing and scalability. So those are the challenges. Again, we still have a handful of counties to continue to visit, so these could mold a little bit, but we're feeling pretty comfortable because of the commonalities that are coming out with these county by county engagements, that these are really the challenges that local jurisdictions and regulators have been facing in trying to attract this industry that seems to be testing us every step of the way. And so just really quickly and being conscious of everyone's time, I'll just pivot into where those opportunities are. And of course, they are worded and designed to reflect the challenges. Because this is being drafted and published by the Department of Agriculture, we're obviously not in any place to make these as formal recommendations, which is why these are challenges and opportunities. This is an analysis of the current state of value-added agriculture and agritourism and how it's being regulated. So as far as opportunities go, of course, that foundational definition for farm, whether that is a formal definition or just better clarity and direction for what is being recognized as a farm and agricultural operation and what the expectations are from the state level down on what agritourism can then be. We recognize that there are plenty of uses being considered agritourism that require a farm to exist. And of course, there are some uses that are happening on farms that don't always require a farm to exist. They can exist in another zone or another community, such as, you know, event facilities. Camping often comes up. But really understanding and sort of directing decision makers to understand what that communal recognition is for a farm and then agritourism to be on that farm. The potential state certification, again, not necessarily licensure, but a means of really tracking where the agritourism enterprises are and having a way to kind of designate them, and that when, programming and initiatives are established to support and encourage the growth of agritourism, there's a way of checking that box that they do meet the standards, and, there's not so much background check that have to happen, and we can move processes along. That had been brought up quite a few times through our engagement with planning and permitting officials. And last slide there. And then lastly, the alternative licensing and develop scalable regulations are a little hand in hand, and will probably tie into some of the conversations that we'll continue to have this afternoon as it relates to farm and agritourism specific licenses. The more we can acknowledge that this is farm specific or agritourism specific, the easier we can ensure that we are supporting farm businesses in the state. And so those are the challenges. Those are the opportunities. Again, I will absolutely owe the subcommittee an update prior to publication of this. We're still very much in the filling out the outline phase. And the next slide will just show you the timeline on that. Obviously, we're in the middle of completing our outreach. We are at the GICA subcommittee as we speak. August, hopefully one more hybrid update before publication in September. I might now push myself to late September, but it will be published in September in time for not only some of these legislative cycles, but also the season of presentations, winter conferences, industry summits, following up with counties, assisting them with maybe any of their initiatives that they want some support on. So it's been going smoothly. It's definitely a lot. I think anyone in this space knows how it can become a rabbit hole very quickly. That's what I'll say, and that's what I'll leave it at. I hope that was helpful. Again, we appreciate MDH opening the door for us to engage with the environmental health directors. They have been present in the majority of these county visits and also have participated in the project update. We just want to keep everyone up to date. So I will repeat, if there are any agencies, entities, organizations that you feel are not effectively getting this information, I welcome the opportunity to engage with them. September is going to come very quickly, but we are moving at a pretty good pace. And with that, we will stop the sharing. I will open it up to any questions or requests for clarity before we move on to the next agenda item. Anything in the chat? Just the slide deck isn't advancing. And we will absolutely share the slide deck. Again, this is very similar to the project update, but that project update was significant in that those challenges and opportunities were presented for the first time. We think we're really getting a good understanding of how the guidance/analysis is going to lay out. In our conversations in these subcommittees and across agencies, obviously there is a lot of analysis going on, but we can only guide businesses and regulators and service providers through law as it exists today. So it is certainly a twofold document, and the process has been fantastic. And we really appreciate everyone's engagement and enthusiasm as it relates to this project. Last chance for questions or points of clarity.
Just to add very briefly, in the presentation, you referenced the definition of agriculture, definition of farm a couple of times as a recurring challenge. You would have put a very quick plug into the Brinsfield interns with Nancy Nunn and Megan Todd through ALI and here at Hughes, but they put together an analysis of where agriculture is defined, how agriculture and agriculturally related terms are currently defined in Maryland COMAR, to help the Ag Commission really understand what exists, as you mentioned, how regulation exists today. And as the commission is going to be looking at defining agriculture within the next couple of months, and sort of providing the North Star for general industry terms, we're hopeful that that's going to be a guiding light as we start having some of those further conversations about, what is agriculture as a whole, then what does a farm become, and what does a farm stay in those further definitions. So thank you to the Renfield interns and to Nancy and Megan for so graciously engaging in that project over time. So we're finally got those results in and got connected with them this week, but really looking forward to taking a deep dive into that with the commission. So more to come. Debbie, got your hand up?
Yeah, just a quick question. It's great that you've been able to get those many roundtables at the local jurisdictions. Are you sharing a draft document with the, those participants, or will there be a draft that before you go to final? Just wondering if you're looking for perspectives on that.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Debbie. I think we asked for folks to be willing and ready last subcommittee meeting. I'm absolutely going to be looking for some stakeholder input. Again, I will say this document is going to be broad intentionally. We don't want to get too specific on what county is doing what and bog down to where the details have to be so fine combed. This is a lot of kind of reactionary and broad concept based on the interactions, but yes, and through the project update, engaging with the ag and economic development specialists, as well as the environmental health specialists, absolutely, there's going to be an opportunity. I know that falls on my lap to get a draft complete in time to get the appropriate feedback, but especially with those whose resources we are referencing, of course, in past committee meetings, we've referenced the zoning matrix, also a Russell Brinsfield project of previous years, University of Maryland, Eastern Shores Agritourism, on and on. So yes, the formal August update will hopefully have some kind of watermark draft file that we can kind of start talking through a little bit in more detail. Fine tuning the challenges and the opportunities and the framework has definitely allowed us to get moving on this. And so, sure, absolutely. This will not just plop up in your email. I assure you of that as a final publication.
That's great. And just one quick follow-up. I know, so you're you got, was it 4 or 6 counties that you don't have set up yet? Do you have a short list that you want to share so we can help maybe open a door? Or I didn't know if, from the counties, I don't know which counties you're still trying to coordinate with.
I will not say I've been ignored by any counties. It's just a matter of getting on the calendar. So okay. I'm hopeful. I can also be a pest. So so far so good. I will absolutely take you up on that should I run into challenges. But again, some of these roundtables have been as many as 20 representatives in a room, and some have been as intimate as 4. Really leaving it up to the representatives of that jurisdiction in economic and agricultural development has been really great, because the conversations have really been molded around the needs and the experiences of that community. And it's really kind of helped us see, first of all, where the commonalities are, really what is truly genuinely a theme across all counties. And then, where are the benchmarks and who thinks they have it figured out and who needs some more resources. It's been a really good experience, but yes, I am hopeful to hit all 24. All right. Thank you all. So we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is committee discussion. Again, I know that we're probably in flux with timing as it relates to this subcommittee and legislative priorities and efforts. So this can be as broad and only updates that we can provide at this time, but going to turn it over, I think, to my colleagues at the Department of Health first, if they don't mind. I combine chemical toilets and on-farm food service into the same category because they do go hand in hand. And I know some processes are a bit further along than others. So Dr. Mitchell and team, whatever you feel that you could potentially update in that regard, we welcome it. And if Dr. Mitchell stepped away, we can jump over to Les and MDE if he doesn't mind.
I could also speak on food.
That
was on the list as well.
Pat was on. Pat, can I put you on the spot? I didn't see you hiding down there.
Put me on the spot. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think Cliff stepped away. I'd rather he talk.
Yeah, well, we
got my notes in front of me.
We can jump to our friends at Department of Environment. I think I saw Les, and Les, I appreciate you
And
joining.
then I'll find my
No
notes.
problem. I'm here. I can sub in, Pat. So
And I'll
you
go get
shouldn't
my
have to
notes.
carry Cliff's water.
So we'll jump.
Let me
we'll
go
jump-
find my notes and then we'll come back. If he's not here, I'll talk. All right.
jump to items B and C, Les, because I think as we discussed, they are kind of one and the same and bottleneck one another a little bit. But anything you could tell us about stormwater management regs, and anything you feel comfortable sharing as it relates to what we've all kind of uncovered as it relates to parking areas and agritourism. Again, whatever is appropriate to share at this time. The full GICA council meeting is next month, and of course, we will reconvene in September.
Absolutely. And happy to do so. For those who know me, I'm native Marylander. I grew up on a farm. Agritourism issues have been very important to me throughout my tenure, both here at MDE and prior to that at MACO. So I'm very glad that there does appear to be some positive movement here to finally address some of these longstanding issues. With respect to MDE, I've been asked to kind of give you two updates. One is on our general stormwater regulations update, which is a major undertaking, and then two, more specifically, how we're looking at that update and how it might apply to parking lots located on farms. So by way of general background, prior to 2009, our stormwater management regulations were largely focused on large-scale stormwater structures such as retention ponds, concrete drainage systems. This really was designed to contain and direct stormwater and less on allowing it to settle and infiltrate back into the soil. In 2009, the stormwater management regs received a major update, and the focus then became on smaller scale environmental site design structures such as rain gardens and vegetated swales. And these allowed for better soil infiltration and groundwater recharge. In 2021, the General Assembly passed legislation without MDE objection that required MDE to update its stormwater management regs a third time. And based on the bill and our own independent position that we do need to update these regs to incorporate more recent precipitation and flooding data and what we know changes in best practices, we launched our Advancing Stormwater Resiliency in Maryland, or ASTARM initiative. And so we began a tandem update of both our stormwater regs and the accompanying stormwater design manual. So the regs will tell you what requirements you need to meet, and the design manual will tell you how to meet those requirements. And while it's a little bit challenging to do them at the same time, in practical terms, it just made the most sense. At the start of the process, we received input from numerous stakeholders, including local governments, builders, academia, and NGOs. We also established several technical groups to receive more specialized and scientific feedback. We do plan to issue an advance notice of proposed rulemaking in the Maryland Register on September 22nd. This will allow for public review and comment of the proposed regulations and design manual. We anticipate the public comment period running for 90 days, and we do intend to hold a public hearing as well during that time. During the 2026 session, we plan on reviewing any received public comments and preparing responses. And then as soon as session ends, we want to propose a final rulemaking in April of 2026. And the regulations and design manuals will include updated precipitation flooding data sets, revise some of the current best practices for stormwater management structures. And I envision that it's kind of going to be a hybrid between allowing for some larger traditional, what I'll call traditional, quote unquote, stormwater structures, retention ponds, et cetera, and some of the smaller environmental site design structures that were focused on in the 2009 regs. And the sweet spot hopefully will be somewhere in the middle with that. And then we will have provisions for addressing projects that are already in the pipeline. So we'll manage to deal with some of the legacy projects. So that's the big picture, major stormwater update for the state. In terms of agricultural parking lots, we're also looking to provide some relief to the process of securing stormwater management permits for certain parking lots located on farms. So currently, parking lots, whether they're on a farm or not, If they disturb less than 5,000 square feet of earth, they're exempt from getting a stormwater management permit. While very large parking lots, and we're talking in the acres of size here, trigger federal NPDES requirements, so they're in their own regulatory scheme as well. But it's the parking lots that are in between these two extremes that must apply for a stormwater permit. And this typically involves the use of a consultant or an engineer to survey the site and create a design for the parking lot to meet the permit requirements. And we have heard from some stakeholders, and Martin's been part of this process, that these requirements can impose undue costs and delays in the permitting process for some farmers. And after listening to the concerns, MDE agrees with this. So what we're planning to do is, once the stormwater regulations are adopted in 2026, assuming they're adopted and everything goes according to plan, we then plan to create a standard plan for parking lots located on farms that are used for agricultural purposes. So these standard plans exist for several types of construction, and they're essentially templates that a stormwater permit applicant can follow to comply with the permit requirements. And an applicant who follows the standard plan typically does not have to submit an individualized design, and this will save the applicant both time and money, and it also makes the review process from our side a lot easier. So we believe the standard plan for ag parking lots is really an appropriate long-term solution to the concerns we've heard about. All of our standard plans must be updated once the new stormwater regs are adopted. And as part of that process next year, we will work on a new standard plan for ag parking lots. The plan creation must be done through regulations, so there will be ample opportunity both for stakeholder and public feedback. And I'm certain we can commit to working with GICA or the department or any other stakeholders up front a little bit to involve you early on in that process. Finally, I'll note there is a specific enforcement issue with respect to stormwater requirements for ag parking lots in one jurisdiction. Luis Cardona from Commerce, Martin, and some other stakeholders are working with us. We're trying to find a shorter term solution to that. So we are looking at proposed using some of the soil conservation guidelines for parking of heavy farm equipment. I'm not sure, honestly, that's in review. I'm not sure if that's going to get to where we need to get with respect to stormwater protections, but we're considering it. And we're also looking at, if that's not the case, how can we maybe, are there some interpretation issues that we can work with that one jurisdiction to get them out of their current enforcement challenge with that. So that's a short-term issue we're trying to deal with so we can get to next year and have this long-term and what I think is a permanent solution to ag parking lots. That's what I got, Martin.
Thanks, Les. Really appreciate that. Really laid that out. And for everyone's reference, this parking area concern is only a handful of months old. And so getting this update on the stormwater management and the intent of how this could all kind of move forward within a calendar year to check that box is really great. So Les, thank you. Thank you for your support and thank you for that update. We'll go back to MDH if
I was going to ask, in the process of developing that standard plan for ag parking lots and what it's going to look like, are you planning on working with the State Soil Conservation Committee on the development of that as they're looking at, I mean, you sort of mentioned it with the specific incident in that one jurisdiction, but sort of involving what those look like across the state and engaging with, SSCC, is they're pretty intimately familiar with the current design standards and what most farmers are looking to apply.
Yes.
Thank you. I know Hans was not able to make it on the call. They actually had an SSCC meeting today in Salisbury. But that'll be great to relay back to him and looking forward to seeing what that can look like.
Absolutely.
And yeah, before we move on, any questions for Les for those updates or points of clarity? Thank you, Les. Maryland Department of Health, we will go back to item A if someone is comfortable speaking on the category of chemical toilets and on-farm food service.
Hey, Harrison, sorry, it's Cliff. I've got a little emergency going on, so Pat Balls will fill you in.
Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you, Cliff.
I'm gonna fill you in. I'm not gonna be as, it's not gonna be as detailed as Les. Thanks, Cliff. Well, I'll say, we are meeting regularly with MDE, to just, we're going over, making sure that the regs that we're drafting are not, there's no conflicts. So, so that is, we're meeting tomorrow, is one of our scheduled meetings. So I think it is tomorrow anyways. Yep, so we have that, and for on farms, I believe that one is out of my hands, out of Cliff's hands. It's above us and it's moving. So that's all I have.
I appreciate it. I think clarification was offered last subcommittee. If you wouldn't mind just reiterating, I mean, we definitely face this when engaging with the industry, is the concept of that bill specific to chemical toilets, obviously is specific to the side of the public and not the food service facility.
Yes, for the one with MDE. Yes, I apologize. I wasn't here that last time. Yes, we are ensuring with the, that is for public, the chemical toilets. It is specific for that. And it's not for food specific though. It's for making sure that, because of, well, like I said, it's, do I have it in front of me? Yeah, that one is for the chemical toilets specific. And it's working with MDE to make sure that the regs are not conflicting where, because they have definitions for, I believe it's, their definition is for portable chemical toilets. And we do not have that anywhere. And the original bill mentions.
Understood. Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify for the group that the idea and the practice of that bill and the intent is specific to the public serving side of the bathrooms.
Right.
Obviously, Dr. Mitchell knows this, some of the first phone calls we got upon the legislation being successful was, whether or not a septic system is required. Well, that's a complicated question because this does not cover the food service aspect of an agritourism enterprise. This is the facilities available to members of the public coming on. So Dr. Mitchell, that was just the clarification I wanted to bring back. I think we talked about it in the subcommittee last time, but with it on the topic, wanted to clarify that. And that's why chemical toilet and on-farm food service were separated out on this item, just so we understand that there are regs that each piece of the puzzle has its own regulation. And so
right, and that is something that that's one of the reasons we want to make sure that our regs are consistent with MDE's regs, which relate to the chemical toilets as environmental pieces of the environmental part. So the hope is, and the plan is, when these come out, that they will make sense in terms of MDE's regulations, and MDE's regulations will make sense in terms of these regulations. But yeah, thanks for that, Harrison. Thanks, Pat. Sorry about that. There was an incident I needed that.
No worries. Appreciate it. Again, I'm optimistic with how cohesive the outreach with the analysis document versus the ongoing initiatives and all the collaboration that's taking place. A lot of great things coming out of the subcommittee and through the relationships being built. So we appreciate everyone's willingness to explore opportunities to improve the regulatory framework as it relates to encouraging the expansion into these value-added and agritourism enterprises. Before we move on,
if I may, Harrison, just a second that I think that we very much appreciate the feedback that we've gotten both from you and the collaboration of the folks on the subcommittee in terms of thinking about how we shape future requirements. We know, for example, that we are going to start looking shortly at our campground regulations, and the issue of campgrounds in, as you mentioned, which is not related to food service, but is very much related to value-added agriculture and agritourism is something that I think as housing, we are thinking very much about how we shape those regulatory revisions to make it clear what the public health requirements and goals are with respect to camping if it's taking place on agricultural lands.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I think I had mentioned this earlier in that the recognition that some of these ideas that fall under the larger concept of agritourism are uses that can happen in more places than just on a farm, right? And then in that term, introducing that as something that can happen on the farm is conflicting with the definition of where it may happen in other places. And so I think it's kind of continuously to speak on those topics and recognize that, and understanding how we can recognize when and where it's on a farm is helpful. And it's been a really collaborative discussion. Before we move on, are there any questions related to the chemical toilet and on-farm food service update? Hearing none. We're going to move on to new business, and this is a rollover from last subcommittee. This is sort of more so just a notice as it relates to committee deliberation on departmental legislation proposals. Obviously, the deadline as it relates to departmentals is far tighter now than it was last subcommittee, but this is just for members of the subcommittee to be conscious of any concerns, ideas, and concepts, and be sure to bring that to the attention of your relevant subcommittee or potentially the GICA council as a whole. We'll probably have more updates next subcommittee meeting as it reflects on timelines of departmentals, but right now there's not too much to update in that regard and specifics. But again, just an invitation for anyone who can think of priorities or concepts as it revolves around the wonderful updates that we were provided this afternoon. I think that covers that for the new business.
Yeah, I don't know if we can really get into too many of those right now.
Did you want to plug a Young Farmer Survey, even though it's not on there? Do you want me to jump?
Sure, we can.
Go ahead.
Wanted to make folks aware at either the next full GICA meeting or potentially subcommittees moving forward. The Young Farmers Advisory Board from June 2024 up until about March 2025 conducted a young farmer survey of, well, young farmers in Maryland, really to gain some baseline information on where young farmers are right now. What are they experiencing? What are their greatest needs? What are the greatest opportunities? Some demographic information just for decision makers. But as that survey came to a close in March, we had an initial stakeholder release event yesterday to go over some of the preliminary findings as we're really digging through the data. It's been very fascinating to see both where young farmers are today, what their needs are, and where they're foreseeing opportunities in the future, but also laying some of the framework for where we in state government can be supportive of that transition of this next generation that's coming into the agricultural space. So value-added agriculture and agritourism both are viewed very highly as vital opportunities for young farmers, particularly young farmers that are looking to either get into or remain in agriculture full-time. That the value of value-added products, the value of incorporating agritourism, particularly into transitioning from commodity grain operations throughout generations, is an immense opportunity to preserve agriculture in the state, even if it is just used to supplement the remainder of the income of the farm by having, incidental farm stays or processing your products into something that's a bit more valuable and desired by Marylanders. So excited to release that data as we look into the next the next GICA meetings to see intergovernmentally what we can be doing to be supportive of those needs. Similar to the 2015 survey, one of the top challenges that young farmers faced was governmental regulation on agricultural enterprises, both from the perspective of nutrient management, nutrient applications, cover crop processes, but also when you start getting into the value-added agriculture and agritourism space, what it really takes to operate those in Maryland. And farmers, by and large, don't want to be fighting because they don't like the rules. They like to do it right. They just, by and large, don't have clarity on how to get right first. So excited to explore some of those opportunities. Like I said, that full data release will come in the coming GICA meetings and a full presentation. But with that, there will be several recommendations, both from the Ag Commission as they digest that data and come up with proposals to the department, but also from stakeholders as we look forward to another exciting session that's going to be here before we know it, and some further proposals to come out of that. So just wanted to give a quick plug for that data that's going to come soon, and we're pretty excited about it.
Any questions for the topics covered under new business before we move on? Hearing none. Moving on to old business. If there are any members that like to have acknowledged anything that's been brought up in the past, is there anything we need to revisit? I think that most of the updates have covered what have been discussed and worked on over the past few meetings. Is there anything we're missing? We'll open it up to member comment after this section. All right, hearing none. There's still some time, so is it appropriate to open the floor to member comment? Open the floor to member comment if anybody has anything additional to add to what was covered today. Hearing none. Is there any public comment at this time? Also here.
I'll make one comment.
Sure.
Since this is my first meeting, and speaking on what Cliff said about the stormwater, coming from my position in local health, if you're looking at, actually, I'm sorry, Cliff, I meant Les's on the stormwater. If there's an exemption for farming and they're making a template for farmers, we're going to hear a lot on the local level, like, why doesn't it apply to everybody else? These templates, if you're going to make templates for something that's for a government permit application process, as soon as you hear, well, you have to do it, but the farmer doesn't because the farmer has something different, it's gonna cause an uproar. So if you're gonna make a template for something along that lines, locally, the regulators will need at least something to say, like, why? Because we're gonna get the question, why do they get the easy out and we have to do all this work? So that's my comment.
Received, and yes, we'll talk about it next year. There'll be a lot of discussion around this.
And that absolutely has been a common theme in the county outreach, and Caroline County hasn't been on the list yet, but they're in the coming weeks. So
you came, but we weren't invited, but you're coming back from what I understand. Because you talked to.
We did a tour. We didn't do a roundtable discussion.
Okay.
We didn't do a roundtable discussion with regulators yet, and that's coming. But that comes up a lot, and we understand that. Obviously, in working with our regulatory partners, the Department of Agriculture recognizes the importance for upholding public health and safety and environmental stewardship. We also come at it from the angle of business growth and nurturing these farms and agricultural enterprises to keep farms. So it's a healthy balance. But yes, as far as making exceptions specific to one individual definition can be tricky. So finding ways that kind of work within the bounds of the regulation, which is, as Les had talked about, the standards and the erosion and sediment control, using soil conservation districts, which are an existing technical assistance provider to farms, and recognizing the evolution of the industry to this point thus far is certainly all on the table. But absolutely, thank you for that feedback. Any other feedback for the good of the order? Hearing none.
Wait a minute, sorry, I was trying to get off mute. This is Joanne with Farm Bureau. I'm curious about what you spoke about, and we can have a conversation after the fact, but I'm curious about the parking areas for farms. and what that's going to look like, and if you're getting input from the community on what you're looking to do for that.
Martin, you mind if I respond to that?
Sure. And I can add if needed. Let's go ahead.
Sure. So, Joanne, we're as we're in the middle of our major general stormwater reg update right now, that process will start next year. And I did mention that these plans, whatever will happen with ag parking lots, those standard plans are a regulatory process. We have to adopt them through the regulatory process. So there will be ample opportunity for public comment, for feedback, for us to consider concerns from any stakeholder, any member of the public, any stakeholder group. And I think we're, as I mentioned, we'd be very open up front to also, with certain key stakeholders, getting a little bit of information up front. We did that with the general stormwater regs, and I'm sure we'd be willing to do that for the ag parking lot issue. So I know the Farm Bureau is an important player there, and we can certainly, you can reach out. Nothing's going to happen until after the main regs get adopted, which, assuming we put the final determination out in April of next year, be a couple months after to start the process for the standard plans.
Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Thank you for the clarity. Any other questions or comments for the good of the order? With that, I think we'll be able to return 30 minutes to everyone's day, and I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it to adjourn. the meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.